Hello and a warm welcome to Jerez in Spain for the final round of the World Superbike Championship. Jonathan Green and Steve Martin bringing you the action around the world, wherever you're tuning in. Welcome to a beautiful day here in Spain as we look down upon the famous Jerez circuit. It's been a while since we've been here, 1990 in fact. Raymond Roche was running around the circuit in those days, the Frenchman, the world champion. And now we return to the final round of the NE Superbike FIM World Championship. It's the perfect place to be. As you can see, we're just across the coast from North Africa, so temperature-wise, any time around the year, it's always warm here. So we've got really nice temperatures here. We had a bit of rain overnight, but there is 3 men who can win the title. One of them is this man, Eugene Laverty. And he's still, despite it being the final hour, deep in discussion with his engineers and mechanics about what to do, when to do it, how to set it, and whether they can pull it off.
Normally these guys in the morning warm-up get a last chance to test something, Jonathan. That hasn't been the case here this morning because it did rain last night. The track has been damp. It's dried up now, perfect conditions, but anything that they were going to try as a last gasp chance in the morning warm-up has been negated now because it was wet, there was nothing useful done. So pretty much they're going to have to rely on the information that they've had yesterday or take a complete gamble. Eugene Laverty done a lot of testing laps around here. In my mind, he's going to be tough to beat. He's got nothing to lose, whereas some other guys that he's up against, Tom Sykes as an example, they've got a lot to lose. So Eugene should be the man in form here today.
Yeah, but I think the pressure's on because nothing to lose is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is making a mistake now with him being in the shop window for next year. A silly mistake here this afternoon could actually not help his negotiating.
That is true. That is true. Of course, he hasn't signed anything yet. There's a lot of gossip in the paddock as to who's riding for who next year, and one name that hasn't been signed to anything is, of course, Eugene Laverty. This man, of course, Chaz Davis, I had a chat with him last night. I wasn't brave enough to ask him where he was going next year, but the rumour in the paddock is he's going to be red.
Yeah, Ducati. That's what I've heard.
You've heard that too?
I've heard that rumour, Ducati.
Well, let's hope so, because I think if they can get a good rider, a hungry rider like Chaz Davis on it, have a good off-season testing.
Well, and by the way, it's an obvious fit given that he's out of this team. BMW will not be coming back. Carlos Checa, if you hadn't heard already, has hung up the leathers. Finally, you saw the pictures a moment ago of Carlos retiring from the sport, and even though he's still fully injured, and wouldn't be back for 2 months anyway, Carlos has decided to hang it up. So therefore there is a spot at the All-Star team, if that is what they run, and we don't know that yet. So there's so many this season. You look at Tom Sykes, we know what he's doing next season. He's coming back, and in his mind, coming back as a world champion to defend that title. That's pretty much his plan. And probably with this man, Marcel. I think their combination will stick together, a bit like me and you, Steve. it's a winning formula. Why would you change?
Where's our trophy? That's what I want to know.
I'll make you a cup of tea after.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Yeah, but I mean, Tom has got to take it a little bit easy out there today. I think he's going to be aiming for third. He needs to get third, not fourth in this race. If he does that, he's going to win the championship, and that's what he wants to do.
In race one.
In race one.
Yeah, really
he doesn't want to let it go to race 2 because you can't enjoy it. You win race 1, enjoy race 2, everybody's happy.
Michel Fabrizio, if you've forgotten or haven't followed the story for the last few weeks, is in the Pata Honda team because Johnny Ray, of course, broke his leg and a few races ago, and then they drafted this man in who left his team, which was the Red Devils Aprilia team, which was quite an interesting shake-up, really. And that allowed Tony Elias to come in and ride the Aprilia, which he's done very effectively. Davide Giuliano, if you want a spoiler, here he is, number 34. If you want to have somebody mix this day up and just put a few thoughts in the minds of those going for the championship and not make it quite so clear, here he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's still only 23 years old as Davide Giuliano. Probably going to stay in the Altea team next year. There was some talk of this team going to MV Agusta, but I don't think that's the case now. Perhaps they're going to stay at Aprilia, not sure, but Davide Giuliano is getting stronger and stronger.
What else would you do?
Every event. What, if I was Davide?
Well, no, what else would this team do?
Well, there's discussions with everybody. Perhaps Kawasaki I mean, perhaps...
Could they run BMW?
Perhaps. I mean, BMW are increasing their customer support now. Of course, the factory team won't be here anymore, but effectively, that's good for the paddock because the money that was getting shoved into this team here, all of the millions of dollars, is now being spread. So that means that we should see a better customer support program, not only in the World Championship, but also in the National Championships as well. So that, in my mind, is a good thing.
Now, if you're looking at Marco Melandri and wondering why he's got one boot on and one shoe on, it's because he's got a problem with that right foot. He has all weekend. In fact, he's missed a couple of free practices. He's been fast when he's on the bike, but he's got a foot injury because he fell down the stairs. Yeah,
apparently it was pretty... I did speak...
I said it cynically enough, didn't I?
Yeah, I think. I spoke to the clinical mobile about it just before Super Bowl and said, so how bad is the injury? And they said, well, you know, it's because he didn't do the free practice. And then I saw the guy, the doctor afterwards, and he said, well, it's not that bad, is it? Because he qualified
he qualified perfectly. Sylvain Guintoli, another man going for the championship. And I'm delighted to say that international broadcasters, stand by your beds. I think I've just seen out of the corner of my eye Johnny Ray coming this way. So if that's the case, we are in for a treat as we look at Sylvain Guintoli, because Sylvain is staying cool about it, 38 points behind. He's third in the championship, one behind Eugene Laverty, and his focus is not so much trying to beat Tom. I don't think he can really change that effect, but what he can do is get second in the championship and beat Eugene Laverty, and that is his quest. And I wasn't lying. I did see Johnny Ray coming out of the corner of my eye, and he's just joined us in the commentary booth. So welcome aboard, Jonathan.
So it's for 1 kilometer is...
How are you?
3 minutes or 4 minutes.
So, Sylvain Barrier is another person we've mentioned before, coming up from Superstock and joining the Superbike Championship just for this season, just for this race. What do you reckon to Sylvain, Johnny?
Yeah, he's had a great season in Superstock. I think the Superbike is a little bit more technical than the normal stock bikes, but he's doing a good job this weekend. I've been out on track watching him, and he rides with a lot of hunger, so that's really good to see.
How are you, more importantly? We've got you in here, and I know you're not racing, and I know you want to be, but the fact is you're here, so that obviously shows that you have willingness and are, what, able?
Yeah, I am able to ride a bike right now, which is the frustrating part, but you know, just on safety grounds, when you put what I have to gain against what I have to lose by coming back for the last round of the season, it's the cons far outweigh the pros. You know, the bone is not knitted yet. You know, the stability and strength around my leg is really good, but you know, there's no calcification showing yet. It's 6.5 weeks now since my operation, so I take things steady, and I'm going to test on Tuesday, which is good, and take things from there.
How do you take that on Tuesday? I mean, what are you actually aiming for, just to break yourself in? Are you going to be able to control yourself out there? Have you ridden at this track before?
Well, on Tuesday, I think we can go out and really push hard for a direction with setup. You know, it's clear that our bike right now, we're struggling a lot with electronics. Just watching from the sidelines over the weekend, it looks like one of the more difficult bikes on track. The team are aware of that, so we need to make development with the throttle, trying to make the bike more easy to ride, and then I think we can do a good job just by doing some base work with electronics and take it from there.
What do you think about Elias coming to the championship? He's a rider. I mean, if he's here next year, what's your gut feeling?
Well, Tony's like on track. He looks really good. The bike obviously suits him. His stature, his riding style from GP. I'm just not sure. You know, the guy riding my bike right now stepped off the bike that Tony's riding, and you know, Tony's showing him the way around. So that would be a little bit frustrating. It just shows the strength right now of Aprilia, especially at this circuit.
More or less as testing.
Well, they're trying some more radical things on the race weekends, and things that I wouldn't normally try. But I think there's some things he's found, like closing the line of the corner much earlier is you know, much better. I don't know if I'm very a strong rider in what I know, but he's you know, Michelle's, he's up for trying these things, and they're finding some positives, so that's good.
Well, we've got a cast of thousands coming in. Just seen Max Biaggi coming into the media set booth. So it's great to have the riders involved in what we're doing here, because it's all very well sitting in our ivory tower. And I know Johnny's one of these guys that goes home and listens to what the commentators have to say. And it is hard because we're over on the other side of it. And we love having you over here when you get a chance. What's your thought on Tom Sykes? Obviously, you've watched and been, you know, part of his career growing up. He's ridden very well this year.
Tom's he's ridden amazing, you know, not just Tom, but the whole infrastructure around Tom. They've capitalized on, you know, such a great bike. Tom's obviously getting the best out of it every weekend, and I think it's just a case of Tom being, you know, he deserves it. He's spent a few years on uncompetitive machinery. Now's his time to step up to one of the best bikes in the championship and really reap the benefits and the challenge for that world title. So it's not been so fun to ride with him sometimes, because you see how easy it comes.
Hello and a warm welcome to Jerez in Spain. Jonathan Green and Steve Martin, and I'm delighted to say also Jonathan Ray has joined us in the commentary booth. So welcome for those watching on Speed in Australia, because that's a favourite place of his. His wife's from there. And here we go for the final round of the World Superbike Championship. The championship on the line as well. There are 3 riders capable of winning that title, and there are a host of others who just want to finish on a high, because the season has ended in the most amazing way, and we've really never had a more open year. I can't tell you how many riders are confirmed. The one next to me he's going to be riding for Honda next year. But there are so many other riders with a point to prove this afternoon, or at least a showcase. So it's going to be very interesting in that respect as to how this season pans out, because with new rules coming in and with the talk of new teams coming in, we'll get to that in a moment too. It's a very interesting, Johnny, as you're sitting on the sidelines, it's intriguing. I bet you're glad you got your contract sorted.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I was walking up and down Main Street there last night, and there's a few teams booked the first official winter test on Tuesday, but they're not quite sure yet which riders are going to be riding their bikes. So I'm quite happy to be sorted in a stable environment, and we can kickstart our winter program on Tuesday with the introduction of some new electronics, new bit of a reshuffle with the staff, and hopefully reap benefits.
Now, before we get to the business end, I've got to ask a question. How's the family? You're a family man now, and I want to know.
That was great. You know, it was such an awesome experience. Not quite so awesome for my wife. It was quite a long labour, which ended up in theatre. But you know, thankfully she
doesn't she know you raised her at the hard way?
she was great. You know, little Jake's doing great as well. They're both at home. You know, it's such a weird thing, you know, becoming a father. I've never been interested in, you know, other fathers showing me their pictures of their kids and stuff. But now you join that club, it's one of the best clubs in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it does certainly change you mentally, but do you, I mean, how do you feel? Is it going to change you on the track, or can you just put that out of your mind, do you think?
I definitely think, I don't know, I think in motorsport and doing what I do at such a high level, to get there has to be a certain element of selfishness built into the rider. So I do feel like I'm brought up a family guy. You know, at home I'm Jonathan Ray, the husband and the father, but you know, at the racetrack I'm that guy, that ruthless guy that just wants to win. And I don't think it'll change much. Might make me a little bit faster now that I've got an extra mouth to feed.
Okay, so you've been injured from that. Have you been able to keep physically fit? Because I mean, it's very difficult to recover. But I know that if ever I was injured, by the time that you set out, the thing that you hate the most is losing fitness and strength. Have you been able to? What have you been able to do to
Well, it was quite clear. As soon as we were, I got pulled out of the theatre bed, my hospital bed on Tuesday after the crash by my doctor, and he told me to stand up. You know, I stood up, and he told me to take some steps. When I took some steps, you know, to keep walking on my leg, I was cycling quite a lot to keep the muscles in my leg working, and then you know, together with my coach and my team, we made a clear plan to come back at the first winter test, you know, to sit out the season and come back spitting well.
What's your overall feeling about how you would play? I want to say, like, put you on Eugene's bike for a second, or at least in his position. You know, it's a double-edged sword for someone like Eugene, because he's got to go for it, but you know, I don't know what the mindset is of a rider. I mean, you see how the race pans out and what happens after the first corner, or do you go, look, this is my plan and I'm going to stick to it?
Eugene's got no other plan than to go out and win both races. That's as simple as that. You know, there's no massive bragging rights for finishing runner-up or third position, especially in a year being this close. It's all about being the winner, and I think he really believes that. For sure, Tom has to have some bad luck today for that to happen, but in Eugene's position, he has to he's got incredible pace this weekend. He really wants it, and he can do nothing less than 2 race wins, and then see how the cards fall after that.
If I am here, and everybody else waiting on for the end of this championship, and again, how about Tom? I mean, he's so close to the finishing line, but you've got to have those gremlins creeping in. I mean, you've been in this position in terms of, you know, knowing that all you have to do, and it says that all you have to do, but you know that it's never that easy, especially when it's like that.
Well, sometimes it's like when you have to ride a certain way, or you start thinking about the championship, is when you start making mistakes. I think Tom has ridden faultless all year in his riding. It's going to be very, very, barring, like I say before, any bad luck, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Tom to throw this title away right now. You know, if you were a betting man, you would almost put everything you have on him, but stranger things have happened. He has to go out and first be safe, but I think you'll see Tom want to go out in the right way and win the championship with, you know, battling at the front for a race win.
Well, I've got you, and we haven't got time to talk too much, but while we do have before the race, let's just ask you a question, because I know you signed up and you're very happy with the situation you've got, because you've been with this family that is Honda for a long time. But we all think that, you know, that we're probably one of the most talented riders we've got, and yet you kind of not really got the equipment. I mean, the Aprilia and the Kawasaki and the BMW have outperformed the Honda, and it is an older bike. Do you feel going forward now that you are eventually going to get to that position, and in fact the rules might come your way as well? Do you feel that the next 2 years actually could put you in the position that we all think you should be in?
Well, I'm not looking 2 years ahead. It's only about next year, and it's yeah, it's not hard to say that our bike is not good enough. It's not the best package out there by a long shot, but what I do know about my bike is I can get the best out of it. I know all the bad points about the bike which we can address, and you know, in June, July, August time, when you sit down with your management and you speak to these different teams, the options on the table we had, every year Honda and Superbike is the best option. When you look at every single other team and offer that comes your way, there's pros and cons of everything. And you know, if I had my choice of rides, I would go and partner, you know, Marc Marquez in the Repsol Honda team, but you know, that's just not an option in an ideal world. I am where I am. I'm very, very happy to keep the same career around me and to go into this winter knowing what we have, knowing what we don't have, and working our weaknesses.
Talking of the winter, are you heading down to Australia? I know that there's probably a lot of Australians. We're live in Australia now. They're probably listening to you down there, probably on the island where you're going to spend some time. If you are heading down, when are you heading down, and when do your mates need to get their push bikes out?
Well, we've got a flight booked on the 2nd of December to introduce young Jake to all his, you know, he's half Aussie now, so all his Aussie friends and family. It's great for me in the off-season, you know, as a motorbike rider, to be based there in your off-season with good weather. It gives good motivation for training. It's you know, the Australian people for me are like a second family, so friendly, and the atmosphere there over the winter months is a great place to go and, you know, chill out, recharge the batteries, and, you know, to start the season as well in Australia. Sometimes you save money on the flight because you don't have to go back to Europe. So I think we've got a lot of testing planned, so it'll be back and forwards a lot for me.
Okay, so the testing that you've got planned, like this first one in a couple of days' time on the Tuesday here at Jerez, it's pretty much just have a ride around and respect. But when can you start testing properly in England?
On Tuesday.
You said you were going to take it easy a minute.
No, well, I've got a little, I think I made a little bet how fast I can go with some of my mechanics. I think.
Oh, hang on. I hope that bet wasn't an easy one and say faster than Fabrizio within 3 laps.
Well, you were not far off the mark there. But no, we've got another 4 to 6 days in Spain in November. And it's back to Australia in December before coming back to Europe for 3 days in January at Portsmouth.
So, in your mind, what sort of things do you need to make that Honda up? I mean, like I get frustrated sitting in here watching you ride around. Because, as Jonathan said before, you should be at the front of the pack. What does your bike need to go faster, and what are the team actually going to be testing to make it happen?
Well, we need a little bit of speed. We're testing some engine components to make that happen. We've got them already, in the box right now. But the main area is electronics. Engine brake. Our bike seems to be set up too much around engine brake to be on the right line. For me, this weekend's been great because I'm on the side of the track and I can see exactly what other bikes are doing. And for me, we just need to ramp the engine brake down a lot faster towards the apex to help turn the bike, and then the first initial connection with the throttle needs to be much smoother. We have every year we find more and more power, but when we arrive at the racetrack, we can't see that power we can't see it on the ground on the racetrack. But on the dyno, the figures are always increasing and increasing. So there's something in the engine management we need to sort out. Now, I just touched briefly on we have some new staff coming in with a lot of experience, which I think can give us a good steer on that. And I have to be optimistic. As a rider, I can't go in doubting. I know, being an avid Twitter guy or whatever, I'm fully aware of the opinions of other people, and I'm really proud that everyone values me in the highway, but I do have to keep the faith and believe in this project because I know I can make it work.
As a top rider, how many, I don't want to know the ins and outs, but in the off season, before the contract time, how many offers or contracts do you have? Is it like a matter of 10? As a normal guy, I know a lot of guys in the paddock, they struggle, they have to go out, they have to look. And I know you've got Chuck Askelin that does all this for you, but is it like 5 things that you've got looking at, or?
This season, it's quite personal, but completely honest, I had a lot of interest from Ducati.
Yeah.
Also, it was probably my most serious getting down the lines of being a serious deal. We spoke quite a lot with Kawasaki and with Suzuki in this paddock. But as a young guy, I really wanted to go to MotoGP, and earlier in the season it looked quite promising to go and ride one of the customer Honda bikes there for next season, but it didn't materialise. That would have been my first choice.
Well, you've ridden against the Panigale out there on track this year. We're up here, we're only looking at it, but you've actually ridden against it. When you're on track with the Panigale, do you see a weakness?
Well, this guy's done a great job this weekend. Watching on track, Forrest is doing everything kind of right. It's kind of given the whole team a lease of life, but my bike is not the fastest bike out there compared to a BMW and Aprilia, and my bike is a lot faster than this Panigale. I know that you can't compete for race wins with a slower bike. You can't pass guys where you want. You have to take a lot more risk.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put myself in a position where you have an even slower bike. I know they have a huge development plan. They're very keen to get it right, but the bike is quite slow. I'm not sure fundamentally the way the bike is with no chassis, how that's working, but from the outside looking in at this bike, there's a lot of riders that have gotten on it. They've got to a pace which is quite fast, and then they start crashing a lot. So it's I'm not exactly sure, but I know there's a huge factory behind them that are fully ready to up development and take things to the next level.
We just had a look at Michel Fabrizio there. has he actually been able to do anything as far as, you know, test some things that aren't, that, you know, Chris has said to you, well, you know, it's worth testing this? I mean, I know earlier on they were testing some different swing arms that perhaps you haven't tested a couple of meetings ago, and some different links and things, or is it mainly just electronic packages that he's been working on?
Well, to be honest, since I've been left, I think they've got even more and more lost with electronics, the way the direction the guys have been taking, the technicians. But from the chassis point of view, one of my weaknesses as a rider has been closing the line, closing a tight line. And Chris has tried to address that with Michelle. And by kicking the front out a little bit and changing the offset of the bike, they've found that he can close the line much faster, use a lot less meters on entry to corner. So I'm looking forward. We have let's say a project bike to test on Tuesday, and my old familiar last round bike in Nürburgring to test, and that'd be good to compare from there.
You're listening to the words of Jonathan Rea, the Pata Honda factory rider, and obviously out injured at the moment. Sadly wants to be out there, but will be testing on Tuesday, so that's good news to his fans, and it's good news for the championship and next year, because he will be out there and looking to get those wins and move Honda forward as we take a look at Chaz Davies, who is in the market. What a season this is turning out to be. We've got an end of season finale with 3 men going for the world title, and then a host of others all just trying to get a job for next year. I know that Tom Sykes is signed, I know that Jonathan Rea alongside me is signed for next year, but outside of that, there's not a lot of news. Talk to you more about what Australia are doing. We hear that Troy Corser may be coming in with a BMW team. That's a rumour going on, and certainly he's here. Here's the grid: Laverty, Sykes, Giuliano. That's the front row. Could Giuliano be the spoiler? Melandri, Guintoli and Elias. Likewise, watch out for Tony Elias. He had a fall in Super Bowl. He's been quick all weekend. Camia, injured but fast. Forres, the wild card. Atchison's looked good for Australia in 9th position on the Pedicini. Davis not qualified as well as he would want, but watch him come through. Melandri, Camia, Parks is another man. Brock Parks comes into the championship for the Yamaha team. First time we've seen Yamaha on the grid for a long, long time. Lanzi's there, Badabini, Sandy and Fabrizio at the back. So then, this long season of Superbikes comes down to this. This is the final round of the championship from Jerez in Spain. 3 men, Tom Sykes, Eugene Laverty and Sylvain Guintoli all have a chance to become world champion. Having said that, Sykes has a massive 37-point lead, but history will show us that that doesn't matter. Max Biaggi was in that position last year, and he ended up winning it by just half a point. It's a strange thing, motor racing. So Guintoli knows that too. He's 1 point behind Eugene Laverty in 3rd position, the man who led the championship, having won the first race in Australia all the way to the halfway point. Then he injured his shoulder, and it all went horribly wrong from there on in. Hasn't gone smooth sailing for this man either, because Tom Sykes has had his problems. He fell off in the warm-up going into Portugal, believe it or not, and his bike blew up in Moscow. He also didn't have a good run in several other races, but he has been a picture of consistency, especially in qualifying. Tom Sykes in that package with Marcel Dunker has been brilliant, and Kawasaki have certainly stepped it up to challenge Aprilia all year this year. It's been a fascinating battle. Others to have played a part, obviously Marco Melandri with BMW, and Marco Melandri will be out there again today. He's 4th in the championship, his teammate is 5th. The one we're all watching, though, is Giuliano. He's 6th in the championship and on one of those world-beating Aprilias. Giuliano has been quick since Laguna Seca, and his too is fighting for his job. Giuliano, though, has proved that even though he's a youngster of just 23 years old and a former Superstock champion, I think he's finally stepped into the ranks of showing that he is a fully-fledged World Superbike rider, if not somebody who could move up to Moto2 or even MotoGP. These are tense moments for these young men trying to get that first world title. We expected Biaggi to be strong, and he came back on the road last year. All these 3 men have never been in this position to try and win a world title. Perfect circuit, perfect conditions. We've had some fantastic racing over the years here at Jerez, but we haven't been here since 1990 and Raymond Roche. Laverty joked in the pre-interview at the weekend that he wanted to beat Raymond Roche's lap record, but he's done it by 10 seconds because the track was slightly different back then. But he is pole position, and that's the position he needs to be in to and try and take this title. But he needs a good start. Tom Sykes is a blistering starter. And watch out for Giuliano to be the spoiler. It's all come to this. It all started in February back at Phillip Island. Can Kawasaki fulfill a dream that they've waited for 20 years to fulfill? Scott Russell was the last Kawasaki world champion. Can Tom Sykes do it today? And gun lights, away they go. Good start from Giuliano. Better start from Lavity, and he's got the whole shot.
Yeah, Giuliano just up the inside there, but Sykes fits into second. Giuliano got a good jump off the start, Jonathan, but in the end, he ended up going back in the pack. But Sykes is exactly where he needs to be. But look at the BMW in third.
Yeah, good start from the BMW, and Giuliano's in the mix. But, well, Eugene needed that start. He got it. He was a rocket off the line, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Eugene's just going to give it everything that he's got today. Tom Sykes, his job is to stay out of trouble. He really does just need to keep clear of everybody, try and finish in that top three. If he can finish in that top three, remember, he'll be the world champion in the first race here today.
Next most important corner is at the bottom of this hill. This is the flat-out back straight, and it's not Adelaide in terms of how tight it is, but it's pretty tight going in here.
Yeah, it's definitely very tight. The thing about this circuit is there's a lot of front end. There's Brock Parks as well. He's riding this weekend. Don't forget that, Australia. What I want to see in this race, though, is I want to see Gintoli continue the fighting form that he had last time out in Magny-Cours. As I said, I've been disappointed with him because he's been there or thereabouts, but he hasn't really been attacking. In Magny-Cours, we saw a different Gintoli.
And let's just give you the stats again. Tom Sykes only needs to finish third in this race, and the championship is his.
He's looking pretty good at the moment. Melandri behind him, and then there's a little bit of a gap. So he's got himself in a good position.
Sylvain's got some work to do from fourth position, but he's in place at least now to start to build and challenge. 21 lap race, it's a long way to go. Elias is the man I'm also watching. He's in fifth position. He got ahead of Giuliano at the start, and Davis is behind him. They crossed the line and passed our commentary position with 1 lap gone. Lavity does a 1:47.2 from a standing start. 47.5 from Sykes.
Elias in fifth, Giuliano. There's Leon Haslam. We heard from Jonathan Ray before about the Hondas and the problems that they've been having here this weekend.
Well, we could see it from ourselves when we went out on track for poor old Haslam.
Yeah, they certainly didn't qualify very well. It's going to be a difficult weekend for them.
I mean, it's stunning to see both Haslam and Fabrizio 17th and 18th. I mean, that's insane.
Well, no such problems for the boys up front. Sykes, good. And it looks like Gintoli is just starting to pull that gap down. I'll tell you what, the BMW's got a bit of speed.
And he's got a bit of speed to go on the inside.
That's what Tom Sykes has got to be careful of.
Yep, dry sack, and he makes it through. Nicely done by Melandri. And I said that Giuliano could be a spoiler. Well, Melandri could be too. He's injured with that right foot, but we've seen in race pace, we'll see how long he can last. But in practice, he was quick throughout it. So, another lap about to be completed, and Eugene Lavity pulling away at the front by just a couple of tenths, but enough to give him a nice gap.
Just been handed the tyre selection chart from Pirelli, and pretty much as per normal, most people have gone with the B front tyre, the SC2 front, matter of preference. The rear, everyone's gone for the SC0, which is a nice soft front tyre. There's that move up the inside by Marco Melandri. That's what he is good at, diving up the inside at the last moment and chopping the line off, and he doesn't care if he knocks or makes contact with the Kawasaki man.
Well, it's an emotional time for BMW. We've been in the BMW hospitality over the weekend, and they've got mixed emotions because this is their last big race, but they're a big team and they want to finish on a high. They just won the Superstock Championship in terms of manufacturers. Melandri does a 1:41.9 and not that much faster, but at least enough to keep Lavity honest and make sure that he doesn't get away. The gap 0.3 at the moment.
Melandri's the rider that likes to win, and he hasn't done that very much this year. He's won only 3 races, so I mean, you know, when you consider how they went last year compared to this year, they've pretty much stayed stable, and I'm sure that he wants to go out on a high with this team.
Well, I'll throw a cat amongst the pigeons. Everybody says Melandri's going to Aprilia, it's a done deal, but does it matter what happens in the test, or is it still up there?
Well, I don't think it matters what he does in the test, whether he...
Well, what I'm saying is other people might test that bike.
No, I think with a name like Marco Melandri in Italy, he could go to wherever he wanted to go in an Italian team.
I mean, just trying to steer.
Yeah, I know, but it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of what Aprilia is going to do.
Yeah. So, Eugene Lavity has got the start he wanted. He's building it now. 0.4 of a gap now. If he can take it to over a second, then he's comfortable.
Doesn't look like,
in terms of...
Doesn't look like 0.4 to me.
No, it doesn't at all. It's coming down, isn't it? It says officially that, but as you can see, yeah, it's coming right down to 0.2 already. So, yeah, Marco is reeling him in, but Tom Sykes is comfortable where he needs to be in third.
Yeah, he's certainly sitting there, and Gintoli just behind him, and just stressed. I mean, like, it's such a different feeling to be riding where Tom Sykes is right now, because he's got all the pressure in the world on his shoulders. He's riding around to him, he can't make a mistake. We saw it in Superpole too. He settled for second, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't really have a good go in Superpole. He just cannot, you know, I hope he finishes champion this one so we can let him loose in race 2.
Well, as we head on to another lap, I can't resist but get Johnny involved here because he's sitting here and enjoying it. But Johnny, you know, your take on the opening few laps and how now with Eugene leading and obviously Marco about to pass, you know, how do you see it panning out?
It's exactly where I thought the race would be. You know, Eugene has shown incredible pace all weekend, and he's trying to lead from the front. You know, he's doing exactly what Tom's done all season now, is be confident in the front. Melendrez is surprised. You know, he hasn't had the best weekend at all. He's had to fight every single session amongst the Aprilias and the Kawasaki's. But, you know, he's showing a lot of hunger there. He wants to, like you say, end the season in the high. And like Steve said before, he hasn't had that many wins this year. It would be great to cap it off with one here.
What kind of circuit suits riders? Is this a Melandri kind of circuit? And it seems to be fast and flowing. It's not like a front-end tight corner circuit where he's obviously excels in something like Nürburgring.
You know, all the guys right now in the top 4, Jerez, a prime circuit. You know, it's a real rider circuit. You have to be smart. It's about momentum, linking parts of the track together. And it seems to be when you look at that top 6, it seems to be a little bit biased towards Aprilia, with all 4 bikes in the top 6. So you know, Sykes and Melandri are doing a great job to fight inside there.
Just a little word that Camia injured in 8th position, but coming through just behind Davis at the moment. Atchison still in the top 10. Good start from him on the Pedicini Kawasaki. Badavini in 11th. Sandy Cluzel. Disappointment. I don't know what's gone wrong with Cluzel this weekend, but he's just not there.
No, I'm just looking at our official time screens here with 5 laps of the race gone. You know, the old 1990 lap record of Raymond Roche is still standing, but Melandri is almost 10 seconds faster than that in 13 years later. So
no surprise though.
23 years later.
Yeah, pretty much. So. Lavity, Melandri, Sykes. That's the top 3. And as it stands, Tom Sykes would be the new world champion. And Steve, I think he's playing it exactly as you'd expect. I would have thought maybe Sylvain might get through, but it won't matter. But I think that he won't want Sylvain to beat him because he'll want to finish it here. And the last thing he wants to do is go into the last race with a question mark. So he'll want to keep this 3rd place.
Yeah, I mean, the question mark for me is what Gintoli's going to do. As I said, and you know, if you've listened, yeah, there is Cluzel. My take on Cluzel is this. I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing next year yet. Was that smoke? I just saw some smoke coming out the back of his bike there. That's not good for him. But, you know, you've got to imagine you're a young guy. You haven't been offered a contract for next year in that team yet. He hasn't got a contract in that team. And, you know, there are offers with other riders out there for Suzuki. So that's got to be playing on the mind of Jules Cluzel as well. He's got to try and put that out of his head and do the best job that he can. I think he's done a reasonable job on the Suzuki, but the problem this year is there's that many riders, with good riders and top riders without rides, that you know, Paul Denning is just trying to leave one seat open in the hope to catch a really top rider to gain a big sponsor for next year, because that is what the Suzuki team is lacking for next year, a really, really big sponsor. Big names, bring big sponsors.
Another lap completed, 5 laps gone. We're on lap 6 now, 21. This is race 1 of the final round at Jerez. And at the moment, Eugene Lavity doing the business. Melandri holding station, 0.2 the gap between them, but you can see it for yourself as they go through too. Here's another look at Cluzel dragging the foot and going past Badavini.
I reckon that smoke might have been off of his boot, even sometimes dragging on the ground.
Could be.
Well, it's definitely not a mechanical problem. He's still out there going around, isn't he? So.
Yeah, and Sykes is drifting away a little bit in 3rd, and Guintoli's not really making much of an impact on him either. Behind them, Elias, who I expected more from early on anyway, is still in a good pace, 42.4 last time out. He's on the same pace as Lavity, but as you can see, Elias just in the distance as they go through. Giuliano still 6th, then it's Davis. Camia and Atchison now up to 9th. He's got ahead of Forres, the wildcard rider from Spain. And Atchison moving through the field, and this is an impressive showing by the Pedicini man, who really has had no time on this bike, certainly never been to the circuit, and is impressive.
Yeah, I tell you what, I would like to see him on a decent bike. I mean, for me, it's a shame that there's a perfectly good Kawasaki factory bike sitting in the garage. And
it does ask a couple of questions, doesn't it? Barrier is in the points. He's in 14th position.
It's good to see Sylvain Barrier making his first superbike effort as well. He didn't qualify well to Barrier, but he's certainly a guy that can come good in the race.
Well, I mean, talk about baptism of fire. I mean, he's thrown into a whole new set of circumstances with a superbike from a super stock bike. And I mean, but interestingly enough, it's what that transition is exactly what the championship's going to go through in the next 2 years.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the other thing for all of these young guys, and I mean, Jonathan was one of the guys that did do this. It's you know, it brings them into the championship 1 or 2. You know, in the last part of the season, and you know, gives them a bit of experience to bring them into next year. I remember you, Jonathan, your first ride on the superbike. What was it? Back in 2009, when you were in the Super Sport Championship, and then you rode at Portimao or something.
2008, yeah, I'd already done a deal for a superbike, but mathematically it was impossible to beat my teammate Andrew Pitt in the championship. He was already crowned world champion, so. For me, my team made the decision to ride, for me to race. Race 1 went incredibly well. After qualifying on the front row in my first superbike race, I finished 4th. But in race 2, Troy Corser and I came together in turn 1. He sent me straight on to the gravel, and I finished a lowly 15th. But it's surprising that momentum, that confidence that gives you going into the winter break. You know, I can race with these guys. I can qualify in the front row.
What was it like for you back then? Like, I mean, like. You were a little bit different because you were racing with really good guys in the British Superbike Championship before that, but to come and race against guys like Bayliss and Corsa for the first time, I mean, is that something that a top rider like yourself has had in the back of you know, you're thinking, wow?
Yes and no. You know, I was one of the first British riders to buck the trend of British Superbike, because that championship was so competitive in its own. I took that gamble to step out of there into World Super Sport, along with the late Craig Jones. And that year we had such a hoot. You know, the only 2 top British guys in the championship doing a great job. So we really looked up to Troy Corser, to Troy Bayliss, Nori Haga. Now them guys were guys that I used to watch on TV, not guys I used to race against. And you know, to share the same track with them guys at Portimao, it's incredible. So you know, for guys like Barrier, this is a great sort of experience to go away and come back stronger with in 2014.
What's the depth like in this field? I mean, like, it just seems to me that if you're having a bad day, you don't finish 4th, you go back to like 15th or 16th. I mean, you look at the Honda, you know, Haslam at the moment. He's not a bad rider. He's down at 16th.
Honestly, it's so difficult for me to watch this right now, because you know, the whole Pata Honda team, they're struggling so bad. I don't know. It's hard to see exactly where it is, because I know that I left in Nürburgring and the bike was competitive. And it was competitive enough for me to crash out on oil, battling for the podium. So to see this, and to see the lap time being similar to the other side of the garage. I don't mean the other side being Fabrizio. I mean Michael van der Mark and Lorenzo Zanetti. It's tough to watch, but it's clear they have problems, because both Michel, who pretty much dominated all of Phillip Island weekend at the beginning of the season, and Leon Haslam, they are 2 great riders, so there's just something not looking right.
Sykes is still doing exactly what he needs to do at the moment, just 1 second off the lead, but and as we look at Marcel Deukner there, what do you think's going through his mind right now?
You know, it's another race for them guys. They have to look at it as another race, but in the back of their mind, they have to be confident. They've got one of the best riders right now, you know, in the position he needs to be in. It doesn't look like Tom has the team now to fight for a race win. As we see the front trio just edging away, the lap times in the last lap, just 3/10 faster than Tom at the front. So now he's going to be complacent now, battling with Guintoli. All he has to do is beat Guintoli, but the battle for the win is probably out the window.
Okay, you've raced against him. If Tom has got a weakness with that Kawasaki, what is the weakness?
It's
very hard to say. In a very fast circuit, the Kawasaki is still not as fast as the Aprilia.
Oh!
And the BMW, as Marco finds a very late apex. But Tom still, they've addressed a lot of the problems with the Kawasaki's with the tyre going off. You know, they can stay more consistent, but still Tom, when he's going more, when his lap time drops in the race, let's say, he's one of the most frustrating guys to get past because he pulls such a tight radius in all the corners, he's dark to the inside, and he's so hard to get past when you have a better pace. So
yeah, he looks like he certainly looks like one of the late breakers. Like he jabs that brake lever and like he can really hold that pressure on the front wheel to the middle of the corner.
Exactly. So even when Sylvain, he will find some pace maybe at the end of the race, manage his tyres better. It's fine to get onto the back of Tom, but then it's another mission to actually get past.
No change at the front. Laverty, Melandri and Sykes. And in fact, the gaps pretty much stayed the same too. And fascinating insight from one of our top riders, Jonathan Ray. We're delighted that he's back to fitness and we'll be testing on Tuesday, so go to the internet and check out those times because it all starts again effectively tomorrow and Tuesday because they all start doing it again. 142.1, but Sykes is dropping off in third place at 142.9 his last lap, so Laverty's upped the pace a little bit and Sykes has dropped off it.
Yeah, he certainly has, and interestingly, Gintoli just behind him, a tenth of a second quicker, so Gintoli. And I'll tell you what, the thing that Gintoli's got is if Tom loses pace towards the end of the race, Gintoli's a guy that can maintain that pace. He really can. He doesn't use that rear tyre so much. He's a very smooth rider, gets on the gas nice and smooth. So if anything, Gintoli can get up there. Now, as I've said before, it's just a matter of whether he's able to attack like we saw him attack at Madley Court. That was impressive stuff for him there. If he's ever going to do it, he's going to do it here today.
I'll tell you what, one thing that's interesting is just, John has just alluded to the fact that, you know, pre-season testing we had here at Jerez, the times were like in the 40s and the 41s, and, you know, we've just seen a 42.1 by Laverty. So the grip must have gone down. I know they had an historic race here last weekend, and a lot of people are saying that, you know, the historic cars, that is, put a lot of oil down. Could that be a factor why there isn't the grip that we expected pre-season?
It certainly could be. Also, I spoke with Giorgio Babier about this at the start of the weekend, believe it or not, and he also said to me that this circuit is a lot like Valencia. It's a sort of circuit that when the track temperature changes, because it's such an old surface, and like, you know, a week ago, they had the vintage cars and all that oil seeped through to the under the top of the surface. Whatever is under there from years of racing comes back up through the surface and it makes it slippery. Whenever it's hot, this place is very difficult to do a fast lap time.
Well, Steve, it's getting very interesting in our championship chase now because Laverty has managed to break a lead on Melandri to 0.6, but Melandri's still in tow. That's not the important thing. Sykes, though, has dropped off 2.5 seconds. And more importantly, if he loses out to Gintoli, who can up the pace if he can, if Gintoli can get past Sykes, we go to the last race.
Yeah, it looks that way, but when I look at Gintoli now, it looks like he's just dropping off.
In comes one of the Pata Hondas. It's not a good day at the office, and it's Haslam, and a disconsolate Haslam, fed up.
Yeah, I spoke with him earlier in the weekend, actually. They actually, believe it or not, we were talking about the electronics package. They went back to the old electronics package that they had last year, not the one that they've been using this year, to try and see if that was fixing the problem that he had, but not to be the case. I think Leon's had enough for today, and I'll tell you what, they're going to have...
I think that was a wave goodbye. See you, guys. I'm going back in. I'm going to have lunch.
I think they've got a very, very difficult second race here today, and they've got a very difficult off-season to work that out. But to be honest, I'm not saying this just because Jonathan's sitting here, but since Jonathan has left that team, I don't know, maybe they've lost their mind a little bit.
Well, Melandri's trying to find his way and get closer to Laverty, and the pair of them are pulled way ahead now. Sykes and Gintoli's battle. 2.5 seconds, and that's a massive lead as they come onto the straight. We'll check a look at the laps again. 42.2 last time out, 42.4 this time from Laverty. Sykes has a 43, so Sykes has dropped it by a second, and I think, though, he's in control of this race and knows he just needs to finish third. Also keeping an eye on Atchison. He's in 9th position at the moment, and obviously he started further down than that, and he's been, for me anyway, the revelation of this weekend. He's gone through, and he's now behind Camio, and he's got a good chance of beating Camio before the end of the day, because Camio, with that broken foot, and fitness not 100% fit, we expect him to fade a little bit at least towards the end of this race.
I rate Acho, and I'll tell you why. When we arrived here on Friday, he had that big crash at Magny-Cours where the bike, the traction control turned off and it high-sided it to oblivion. The bike was completely written off. It arrived here written off. They repaired the bike. The swing arm was cracked. They didn't put a new swing arm in it. They took it off, put it in the back of the truck and welded it up, put it back in the bike. He's never been here before. First time he ever saw the place was on Friday. And he's in 9th position on that bike. He did a 41.5, if you can believe it. So, I mean, I rate him. Somebody give him a ride. He needs to ride, and I'm not saying superbike. He needs to go somewhere where he can be competitive and win a championship. I don't think he's going to get a competitive superbike, but maybe an Evo ride or something else.
You want entertainment? If this race isn't as exciting enough, let's go back to Giuliano, because there's always something going on with that man. 6th place at the moment, a little bit Larry through there, but Elias got past him a few laps ago, and he's now trying to see if he can get back on pace. Melandri's recovered well, and he's taken that gap down to 0.4, less than that now. It's 0.1. You can see it for yourself. As they come across the line now, it's a good lap from Melandri. He's definitely reeled Laverty in, and the gap is 0.2 officially.
Yeah, Melandri's got to be feeling pretty good now. Still quite a few laps to go. He loses out and drive out of turn 1, though. But this is where Melandri makes time up, on the brakes into the middle of the corner. He's incredible at that point of the circuit. He really loads the front and he can get the bike to turn on a dime, which I think is very important around this track. The other advantage that Melandri's got, he doesn't use a lot of rear tyre. He really does let the front tyre do all the work. And that's been a part of his problem this year, the fact that with the 16.5-inch front that he had last year, he really liked it. The 17-inch front, although it's been good for a lot of the riders, it hasn't really, it's taken BMW and Melandri a while to settle into it.
Getting interesting because Sykes could argue that he's not under pressure and he's sailing on towards the world title. Having said that, he's only 0.3 quicker than the man chasing him, Guintoli, who surely will make some sort of lunge to try and keep hopes alive before the end of this race. So he's not out of the woods yet. I just wonder what Johnny must think of this, because Sykes is in a good position, but he's certainly not comfortable.
No, definitely not. But because as a rider, you want to get it done. You want to go out and have your swan song in the last race, kind of no pressure at all. So it would be a priority to do it in this race, but as we see going through the final few sectors, Sykes has that 0.8 of a second at the start of the lap, and then Guintoli eats through sector 2 and sector 3, bringing it down 1 or 2 tenths. So it's going to be a battle that goes on. It's going to be the longest second half of the race for him, because in the back of his mind, all he's thinking about is, I want to do this championship in race 1, and these last laps with seeing your pit board every lap being 0.7 is going to be difficult.
I mean, it looks to me like the advantage of the Aprilia is, definitely it's got that good squirt, bottom end squirt off of the corners that Melandri hasn't got, and I'm thinking that is helping Eugene Laverty out of the tight sectors, but through the faster sectors and into here, look at this, into up the top of the hill, Melandri just closes up a little bit and he can turn that bit tighter, stand the bike up and use the top end speed of the BMW.
Well, it's getting interesting now. Melandri is close enough to make a pounce at Laverty for sure, and has got the time to do it. Guintoli's up the pace just a little bit. He was slightly quicker than Sykes last time out. He needs to improve on that. And if he can build on it, there could be a chance. In fact, you can see that Guintoli has closed the gap on Sykes, and it could make things very interesting towards the closing stages. What Laverty doesn't want, though, is to get into a fight with Melandri, because he has to fight for the win. So the last thing he needs is Melandri getting him past him, because he's going to have to fight him for position.
Well, if Melandri does get past, that is going to help Tom Sykes a lot. Then it doesn't matter if he finishes third, he can finish fourth. Do you know what I mean? Like, Laverty has to win. Tom has to finish third. If Laverty finishes second, well, Tom can finish fourth and he's champion. So what's happening up front, not too much of a bother for him.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this battle is this rivalry goes back so far. I know from racing with these guys, if there's a last-minute.com maneuver to the apex to be made, it's going to be made by Laverty on Melandri or Melandri on Laverty. So we're in for a hell of a second part of this race.
Yeah, they were teammates back in 2000 and...
well, sort of.
Well, yeah. Was it 2010 on the Yamaha, wasn't it? So that was, incredible stuff, and there was some fantastic races that they had back there in the day.
Well, Johnny Ray has just headed back to do some more work, maybe go back down to Honda, see if he can help out a little. But I mean, now he's left the booth. I mean, extraordinary. What is going on with Honda?
Exactly what he said and exactly what I said, which is, you know, to be honest, I think that without Jonathan Rea there, Leon has been recovering from injury, hasn't got the experience with the Honda. You know, I think they've just lost the plot a bit. They're losing their way. They're trying to, you know, perhaps they do need to bring some new electronic stuff in to help them out, and that is part of the plan and part of the test for next year. So that, and of course the bike isn't the fastest bike out there, but as we've heard, once again, they're doing everything in their power to improve it. I mean, it's not a bike that can't win. It's won a race this year.
Tom Sykes is trying to maintain that gap from Sylvain Guintoli. Guintoli's got 8 laps to sort it out and try and make this championship go all the way to the wire. Eugene Lavity is doing his part, but he's under real pressure from Melandri. Melandri just wants to finish his year on a high. Intriguing race, this one. 2 distinct battles. Lavity has led all the way, having started well from pole position. Melandri got the best start of all because he didn't qualify quite as well. Elias still 5th, ahead of Giuliano. Davis 7th, Camia 8th, Forres 9th. And that battle between Forres and Atchison rages on. Atchison drops to 10th now as Forres regains that place.
Melandri's still looking quite menacing sitting there, though, Jonathan.
You're more than menacing, yeah.
He's right on the back wheel, isn't he? But it's one thing to catch up to Eugene Lavity. It's another to pass him. Just look at the extra punch off of the corner the V4 machine has got there on that HP BMW S1000RR.
Well, nervous times for Eugene Lavity, but he's doing a very, very good job right now. He looked nervous before the start of this race, but that's understandable under the circumstances. I mean, it was do or die, so to speak, in terms of...
Well, Melandri's got a good drive now.
He has got.
But no, nowhere near with the Aprilia. Tight. Look how tight he is there.
Just trying to work out where, if he's going to make a move, he's going to make it.
Yeah, I think he's trying to work that out too at the moment. He's there, but there's not much he can do about it. But one thing we do know, if there's any tyre degradation at all from Eugene Lavity, we know that Marco Melandri will be able to keep that same pace up. And one thing that he does do well is last lap manoeuvres. But if you think back to Laguna Seca, another guy that does incredible manoeuvres on the last lap, the guy leading the race right now, Eugene Lavity.
Yeah, and Johnny grabbed the mic from me because I knew what he was going to tell me, because he is right. There's bad blood between these two, and Eugene will not let anybody beat him like Melandri.
No.
And that's the last person he wants to have come by.
No love lost. And the story between that is Melandri, if he'd have finished behind Eugene Lavity in the championship when they were both teammates back on Yamahas, Melandri would have got Eugene would have finished 3rd in the championship and got a big bonus.
Yeah, massive.
All he needed to do was finish behind it. Instead of doing that, he did a really nasty pass on him, and Eugene didn't get his bonus. And from that point on, you know, they haven't been so friendly.
And we don't know what the stakes are this year.
No, probably a lot.
And remember, we believe that Melandri is chasing the bike he'll be riding next year.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that anything's been signed at the moment. I mean, obviously, with Aprilia, a lot of things have changed. But Melandri a bit wide there, but he squared it off. Look at that. He squared it off, stood it up nice and early to try and get a good run down the straight, but he's still not close enough in the slipstream as they head down the hill.
Fascinating battle. Look at the laps. Melandri took 0.041, then nothing in the next lap, and then took some more out of him. It's toing and froing between these two. Lavity last time a 43.1, Melandri a 43.0. Identical almost by a 10th, and the gap between them is less than. Sykes did a 43.2, likewise Guintoli. So their gap remains the same. Guintoli needs to try and make a last surge if he's going to have an attempt at overtaking Tom Sykes and keeping this championship alive. Having said that, Melandri, if he gets past Lavity, can change the whole picture.
And remember, Marco as well is a little bit injured. I don't think he'd be too worried about it, but he did slip down a set of stairs throughout the week, and he's been walking around the pits, hobbling around. So,
which in that Grand 4 flat it lives in his heart. Come on then, here we go. Let's get some racing done.
Oh, this is good. Here he goes.
Turn 1, can't do it. Late braking by Lavity. Into turn 1 they go.
Yeah, Lavity is very good on the brakes. You can see that it was in the perfect position was Marco Melandri then to nip up the inside, but Lavity just stabbed that brake lever half a metre later and did a perfect job.
Well, the tension in that Kawasaki pit now is palpable. They are 4 laps away from taking their first world title in Superbikes for 20 years.
Giuliano don't care. He's sideways everywhere. Actually, I'm disappointed by Giuliano. You know, like he was on the front row. He should have been dicing with these guys up front. And yeah, he's 21 seconds off the back of the pack.
Insane.
Elias, good job in 5th there.
Lavity squaring it up. Melandri, ever present. There's the battle that we're watching between Sykes and Guintoli, and it's all about whether Guintoli can stop this man, and right now you'd argue not, because I think Sykes has got some left in the tank. I don't think he's pushed very hard. I think he's not been out of shape the whole race. I don't think he's pushed any more than he needs to. He wasn't trying to stay with the leaders. He was trying to solidify 3rd place, and I think looking at the lap times, they were identical last time. He's just maintaining the gap, and I would say, as he's done all season long, Tom Sykes is controlling this race.
Definitely. He's every corner he's making sure he doesn't make a mistake. He gets on the gas nice and smooth. He's braking smooth, fast where he can be, but look at the mid-corner speed there in Melandri. Yeah, Tom Sykes doing everything perfect to head towards that first championship.
What an intriguing finish to this long year. I've said it before, but it all started as a very much an Aprilia affair. Just a couple of months after Biaggi wrapping the championship up at Magny-Cours, they were testing at Phillip Island, and the Aprilias were line astern ahead of everybody else. They proved it again in the race at Phillip Island by taking a 1-2 in both races for both men, and led equally going into the 2nd round. But that's when things started to get interesting, because BMW stepped up, so too, and they stepped up, and how? Because obviously Davis took the double at Aragon, and then we knew we had a battle on. Sylvain Guintoli continued to be consistent, 2nd places here and there, Assen, and a win there, and maintained his lead. And Eugene Lavity, likewise, didn't have a very good Aragon. There's Haslam going through on his teammate, but he's already back in the pits. They're on in. Haslam broke his leg at Assen. He became a non-factor. Johnny Ray would do the same later in the year. So those 2 men weren't able to put their point on this championship, and it was left to really the 4 of them. Melandri, Guintoli, Lavity and Sykes. Sykes just kept building, and in the mid part of the season he really upped the game. And where Sykes really came good was Donington Park at home, and I think then people started to believe. A double win there, but then another drawback at Portimao. Came 3rd there, and then had a DNF when he knocked the bike over, or fell off the bike, in the warm-up. Bounced back brilliantly, though, at Imola with a double. 2 laps remaining in this championship, and it's about to become a new world championship for Tom Sykes if all stays the same. Melandri, though, looks as though he might even help.
I don't know, Eugene is riding a lot of pressure from Marco Melandri, but Eugene hasn't put a foot wrong. He looks inch perfect. He knows to close the line off. He knows that he can't give an inch to Marco Melandri. So unless he makes a mistake, it's going to be difficult for Melandri to get past. But Melandri's right there if he does make a mistake.
Here's the situation. Lavity has to win this race to keep the championship alive, and has to get his teammate
Here we go.
to get past.
Here we go.
And it's... Oh, it was block pass. Pushes Lavity wide. He will hate that. He's done it once, he's done it twice, and he's now done it to stop Lavity winning a world title. Lavity will be furious.
Lavity will attack back for sure. That is not good, and that's what we were saying before. No love lost between these 2 guys.
Well, now, like I said, I was about to explain that even though Melandri might have the lead and the win, still, his teammate Guintoli needs to get past Tom Sykes to stop Sykes from winning the overall title. So Sykes is going to be the new world champion in less than 2 laps, and Melandri looks as though, despite his broken foot, is going to win the race. Lavity, though, might just have one more throw of the dice for all the reasons we've talked about.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, Melandri's put the hammer down.
Yeah, he has. Here's another look at it. Was it fair, Steve?
Well, it was on the limit, wasn't it? He's gone up the inside. He couldn't make the corner himself. They both ran wide, but he's through. He made it through. He ran him off the track. know, we're going to have to let the...
what do you think?
What do I think? Well, I'd be walking... In the old days, I would have walked up to the garage afterwards and said, mate, that wasn't really too fair.
I think that wouldn't have been the old Steve Martin. That's a television polite way of putting it.
Pretty much.
Final lap. Melandri versus Laverty. The championship on the line. Sykes in third, but that's all he needed. And here he comes, 66. You've seen the lean, mean, green ninja that is Tom Sykes be immaculate all season long. A double win at Magny-Cours, and here, just third place is all he needed. And he's now surely going to take that title. Hold on to it, Tom. I'm sure the gremlins are coming now, but he's a cool, calm, collected character is Tom Sykes. And everybody believes that he deserves this. He lost the championship by just half a point last year this time. He came back and, like I said, started the year injured at Phillip Island, but picked up two major 11-point scores there with 3 broken ribs and a busted wrist. He kept on going and kept on being consistent. He had that fight for points at Monza with Sylvain Guintoli, which wasn't sorted till the end of the season. But he's kept his head down.
Look at this!
Eugene,
what a manoeuvre!
That's a fantastic manoeuvre.
What a manoeuvre!
Eugene for the win! What a brilliant stuff! Eugene Laverty's going to win the race! What a way to do it! Well, he kept his championship hope for a while there, but Tom Sykes, splendid, superb! What a season! Sykes is the new world champion! Kawasaki have taken 20 years to do it, but they've done it now, and wow, what a run it's been! And Tom Sykes slumps to the tank, stops the bike, and the first person to congratulate him is Sylvain Guintoli. He is the new British champion, a la Fogarty, a la Toseland, a la Hodgson. He's the 4th British rider, but without doubt the most popular to take a championship. Tom Sykes does it, and he deserves it. A ninja at its finest. Stealthy, battle-worn, and ready for more.
Look at that emotion coming out.
Fantastic.
Finally.
Yep. He's done it. And he deserves it too.
Gee, he earned that.
Yes, he did.
He really earned it.
But I have to say, good on Laverty. He did a Jorge.
That was a brilliant manoeuvre
He did a Valentino.
By Eugene Laverty.
He did a Marquez.
Yeah, he did. And
he's learned from the best.
Yeah, I mean, Melandri gave it everything he had. He didn't see that coming. But
I tell you what, I know, and I have to say, just a moment for Marcel Doinker, who has worked so hard, and what a moment for this man. How about this? Joan Lascours. Big emotion for him, because I would have said that him following this championship and what Tom was doing, so many races dedicated to Joan Lascours, who of course was Tom's teammate until he was sadly paralysed in an accident in testing. This team has been under that shadow since then. Yeah. So it's a triumph mixed with tragedy, and yet, as you can see, Joan is here and healthy and now commentating, in fact, and
enjoying the victory.
Enjoying being part of what has been a part of his work too.
Definitely part of his work.
But I want to mention, obviously, Per Riba, who's run this Spanish team, and this is a Spanish win too. It's a Spanish-based team. Also, obviously, Yoda, the Japanese mechanic who's been around for as long as, I think, since Scott Russell won the last title.
Well, as long as Kawasaki's been around.
But here's the moment.
Look at this.
Little bit of a wiggle.
Look at this, though. Around the outside he goes.
That's insane.
That is a manoeuvre that you don't do in Marco Melandri.
That is insane. I've never actually seen anybody do that.
Around the outside, Melandri just did not see that coming.
He didn't. He tried, and he defended by staying in the middle of the track. He thought he had it.
No, he closed to the inside.
Yeah.
Thinking that's what Eugene was going to do, but Eugene thought Eugene could see that coming. So Eugene went large and came out on top, and that was the overtaking manoeuvre of the year for me.
The crowd loving it, and he's going to play to it. This man, and we've seen it happen, has become one of the most popular riders in the world. And I tell you what, A lot of these fans aren't British. A lot of them are Spanish, and they appreciate just a great gentleman and a great rider. And he is both.
And KB Cycles getting a good plug.
They've done good out of this weekend. Let me just go back over it again. Wins at Assen. Second place at Monza. Double at Donington. Double at Imola. Second place at Istanbul and a podium. But then the double at Magny-Cours broke it. And that was the moment. Third place was enough for the title. 66. And Eugene Laverty said, "Back out." I tell you, there's been some monkeys off some backs today.
I think that is Eugene's best win of the year.
Oh, without a doubt. Tom's celebrating. He's going to throw the gloves off.
Mate, you need him one more time.
Well, you know what's interesting is that now it's over. I think it's going to be a hell of a race too. And usually I want it to be for the championship, but actually I'm quite looking forward to it being all out.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's going to ride a whole different race next time round. He really is going to be on top of his game. He's going to be feeling fresh. Expect to see him battling.
I expected him to try and go for a 10-second win.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a humble man, Tom Sykes, and he deserves it. His wife is about to give birth literally within days. And I mean, I remember this with Neil Hodgson back in 2003 when he won his title. It was just a wave of everything going right for him. And it's exactly where it is with Tom. I know the hours he spent on planes going to Japan to talk to Kawasaki, to talk to the test riders, him and Marcel. It's not been a comfortable year. We have the same travel agent. I know what his schedule is. Seriously. He's worked his butt off to get to this position.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, boys.
And I have a thought for Peter Brock, his granddad, who's been in that corner the whole time. That's the combo, though. Marcel Doinker from Holland. He deserves that title just as much as Tom, because he's put the hard works in too. And I bet you the next person that Tom will greet will be his lovely wife. The racing family she comes from. There's Marcus Effenbacher, also a big player. Phil Marrett. They're all good friends. That's what I like about this. Is that the rivalry's strong, but so too's the friendship. It's deep. And they're all Brits, and they've all grown up together racing. And the respect is there. You saw it from Johnny. And, interestingly enough, that win by Eugene Laverty has given the Manufacturers' Championship to Aprilia. And that's no mean feat. That's a significant result too.
Thank you, eh?
That was brilliant by Laverty. Good.
You were taking off and going.
He made the best pass of the year.
Yeah. That was incredible. I mean, and we've, like I said, that's probably one of the most famous corners in the year. We haven't been here for a few years, but we've seen MotoGP so many years. There she is. Lovely wife, Amy.
John Hackett there,
John
of course.
Hackett, her father.
Amy's dad.
And a long-time backer of Tom. So, like I said, it's a family business, is this. Family affair. But Peter Brock, which is Tom's granddad, he doesn't come from a real racing family. It's only his granddad that raced. And lovely story that he's followed him. And unlike the Haslams, unlike some of the other families that are sort of like the Lavertys, let's say, Peter has just watched in the background. He's there if Tom needs him, but he doesn't advise. He doesn't try to tell him how to ride. He knows it's way beyond his level. He's just enjoying the ride, just enjoying the journey. And today is a fulfillment of that journey. Here's Marco Melandri, and I have to say, you can't take anything away from Marco. He did run brilliantly. He's got the boot off. He's obviously in a little bit of pain.
Yeah, he was the only guy that could stay with Eugene Laverty.
On the pace, yeah.
He thought he had that win. He closed it off aggressively, and he didn't count on Eugene going around the outside. Boy, oh boy, that Kawasaki team, brilliant. Scott Russell will be proud of that.
Well, you know, it's funny, as you know, I've spent a lot of time with Scott back in the States, and yeah, I did sit him down one night and say, you know, how do you feel? It's been a while since Kawasaki, and, you know, his first comment was, yeah, well, it's good that that Kawasaki have finally taken the championship series, and I agree with him on that point, which is they put everything behind this to give him what he needed, because to beat Aprilia, you needed to come with something as good. Here's confirmation then Laverty, Melandri and Sykes the top 3, but Sykes with that 3rd place takes the world title. Quintoli 4th. Disappointment really for the Frenchman there, and Elias didn't show as I thought he might. Barry in his first ever World Superbike race gets in the points and beats the likes of Badavini, Neukirchner and Lanzi. No mean feat. Yeah, and other than that, Scott said, what a great guy. And if somebody else was going to become another Kawasaki champion. In fact, what he wanted me to do was get one of his replica helmets, which is so popular in the States, and get it to Tom, which may still happen yet.
Good, I hope so. There's a few other Kawasaki riders, old riders around the world. I'm sure Rob Phillis probably watching this. Aaron Slight as well, Kawasaki rider back in the day.
Exactly. And I'll bet also a man closer to hand will be watching this with great interest. And of course, that's Gregorio Lavia.
Yeah.
Lavia and Yanagawa in the day. Big Kawasaki France. Likewise.
Tamada.
Yes. Chris Walker.
Yeah.
And Neil Hodgson.
Yeah, he did too, didn't he?
Started off with Kawasaki, yeah.
Well, Tom was the man.
Yeah, and let me go back again as manufacturer's title goes to Aprilia by 44 points over Kawasaki. Didn't think that was really in question, but let's just go back, Steve, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again for those that didn't hear. Tom was not the favoured son. Let's just take our hat off again right now as we look at this world title to Paul Bird. I will stand up and say thank you, Paul Bird, for believing in Tom Sykes.
You're right.
Because Tom Sykes could have gone another way and his career could have been over. Because Kawasaki wanted Joan Lescourse, they wanted Chris Vermeulen, and they did not want Tom Sykes. Paul Bird said, no, you can have your riders. I'm having Tom Sykes as well. We've got a 3-rider team, and here we are a few years later. So thank you, Paul Bird. History's a funny old thing, isn't it?
It certainly is. Isn't it amazing how one day could have changed his complete career? If as you say, if Paul had decided no, this day would not have happened.
Well, and if you think about where Tom was, he was teammates with Ben Spies.
Yeah.
And made to look ordinary.
He was, yeah. Ben won 11 races that year, and
Tom didn't.
Tom didn't. No, I don't think he won a race. So I mean, he got shoved out of there.
And then went to Yamaha.
I remember speaking to him in the paddock. You and me together at the end of that year, and he didn't know what he was going to do.
And he was also very cynical towards the media and towards those that have written things about him, had written him off. And I have to say, I think today is a big day of vindication, and you might just hear it in the press conference, but because he's not a bitter man, but he's been much maligned over the years. A lot of people have never said that Tom was good enough. And
well,
back at you, people, because I never was one of those people. So
I remember seeing him ride the Suzuki in the English Championship when he was racing against Troy Bayliss. Remember, he was in the wild card there, and he nearly won the race there. He should have won the race there, but he backed off a lap too early.
Yeah, and I remember him in Supersport in Britain. When I was working in Britain following that championship, and there's a lot of talent coming up from Britain. I mean, we've now got 2. Let's forget that we've got 2 British champions. There's a bit of history for you. Sam Lowes, 23, and ironically, if Sam Lowes wins today, we could have had a 3rd British winner today. I know Tom was 3rd, but we had Carl Smith was going pretty good yesterday.
Yeah.
In the Superstock, another Huddersfield man. But a lot of talent. And hats off to Kawasaki, because I have to say, if Tom has been maligned, Kawasaki as a company were always the nearly rans. They left MotoGP and they didn't achieve what they wanted to do there. They never achieved anything in 20 years. They've always been the nearly rans, but have stayed in the championship. Like I said, Scott Russell's one world title, everybody believes, was due to the fact that Scott was just a special rider, because the bike wasn't that great and was no match for the Ducati of Carl Fogarty at the time. But Scott did special things on it. And I think 3 years ago, these guys said, enough is enough. We're going to do this. Let's put the brilliance we've got from MotoGP. Let's put the brilliance we've got, and let's get Kawasaki as a factory behind this, and let's do this. And I think what you're seeing now is the labour of that work.
you won't be able to keep him quiet this week.
I
will you?
know. I think he might be happy to talk to anybody. Tell you what, though, Eugene Laverty's going to have his tail up. I tell you what, could we have a classic Laverty-Sykes battle?
And
race 2?
And throw in a bit of Melandri for a touch of spice.
He's going to be back, isn't he? He's not. Oh, he's going to be unhappy. He's either going to cry into his tea now. That was the moment as he crossed the line. Oh, the relief.
Geez, I hope he's getting a bit more than just a discount from that KB cycle mob.
Look at that. What a wonderful shot. Moment of truth.
What a talent. And it wasn't that he was given a bike that was capable of winning either.
No, he built it.
Him and Marcel built that bike. It had problems at the start. It was fast, and everyone used to call him, Mr. Superpole, because he was getting every Superpole, but he wasn't turning it into a result. Well, they turned it around, and now that bike is a race winner.
Well, and remember how much of last year we maligned the Kawasaki for being good but eating tyres. It kept going backwards in the middle of the race.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
They worked hard in the off-season, and they fixed that problem.
Like I said, I've been in the airport lounges watching them head off to Japan for 3 days between races. Wonderful scenes here in Spain for a well-deserved champion. Melandri hobbles on. See what the body language is between Melandri and Laverty, I wonder. A lot of Irish fans here in Spain, so that'll be a pleasing win for them. Third place was all it needed. He knew that, and he went round it about it sensibly too. Well, I'd go as far as to say, and despite the fact that Laverty has won, what? 8 races this year, that is without doubt his best victory, if not in his career.
He rode around Marco Melandri like he was a novice.
Well, I mean, to take on Melandri around the outside of any corner, never mind that one.
Yeah, he went around the outside. You don't do that.
On the last lap for a World Championship winning race. Wow. And I tell you what, could have been interesting if Tom hadn't made it to the finish line. That would have made things interesting.
Presidente de la Federación Internacional de Motociclismo, le hace entrega del trofeo al campeón del mundo,
And there it is, that World Championship trophy. And of course it is Vito Ippolito, the FIM president, handing out the prizes. We had dinner with him last night. Well, we didn't.
No, we saw him in the gym training to be able to pick that thing up.
Yeah. But that's a wonderful moment for Tom Sykes, and one he will never forget. Like I said, he follows a list of great Brits that have been successful. Carl Fogarty, of course, in 94, 95, 98 and 99, a 4-time winner. And who's to say that Tom can't go to try and emulate that? James Tozen, of course, won in 2004 and 2007. And don't forget that one championship for Neil Hodgson in 2003. Wonderful moment for Eugene Laverty, because if you can't win the title, winning in the last weekend is about as good a showcase as you can get. So congratulations, Aprilia win the world title as you hear the sound of the Italian national anthem for the winner, Lavati. But Aprilia win with 525 points over Kawasaki's 481. BMW third as they pull out of the championship as an official factory. Not too much celebration. Lavati just sprays it all at Melandri. Why not? He's not even going to mess with Tom. Ah, dude. Love a bit of gossip.
Tom's letting rip.
Oh, he's all good.
Good job. Cheers.